The university campus was buzzing with excitement. Word had spread fast: Elon Musk, the tech giant who had changed the world with companies like Tesla and SpaceX, was coming to town. But this wasn't a visit for a conference or a keynote speech. No, this was something much more explosive. It was a debate, a chance to witness Elon Musk face off with one of the university's brightest students, an outspoken liberal who was known for challenging authority and pushing for radical social change. It was the kind of event that would set the campus on fire. Hundreds of students filled the lecture hall, all eager to see the showdown. Some wore Tesla t-shirts, their eyes alight with the hope that Elon Musk would dismantle the progressive agenda of his opponent. Others wore pins declaring their allegiance to social justice causes, their fingers itching to type up their thoughts on social media after the event. On the stage, a long, sleek table sat under the harsh lights. 2 microphones stood at the ready. One was for Elon Musk, the man who had revolutionized the world of technology, but whose opinions on issues like climate change and artificial intelligence made him a polarizing figure. The other was for the liberal student, Rebecca Taylor, a brilliant political science major known for her fiery speeches on equality, environmental responsibility, and government accountability. The crowd hushed as Rebecca walked to her spot at the table. Tall, with fiery red hair and an air of confidence that could make even the most powerful people feel small, she was ready. She knew this debate could define her future. A win here could launch her into the national spotlight, maybe even into politics. Then, the door opened, and Elon Musk strode in with his usual calm demeanor, dressed in a simple black jacket and jeans. He looked every bit the billionaire genius who had altered the course of history. His presence alone was enough to make the room fall into a stunned silence. Elon's eyes scanned the room, and though he appeared unfazed, there was a quiet determination in the way he held himself. He didn't need to be flashy, he was there to make his point. The debate was about to begin. Tonight, we're going to have a discussion that may seem like a clash of ideologies, the moderator said, addressing the packed room. But we're here to talk, not just argue. Our goal is to understand, not just to win. Let's begin with opening statements. Rebecca spoke first, her voice strong and steady. We live in a world where the powerful few control the resources of the many. Climate change, income inequality, and the erosion of democracy are all symptoms of a system built on greed. Elon Musk, like many billionaires, uses technology as a tool for profit rather than progress. If we don't change the way we think about our future, we'll destroy the world before we can fix it. The crowd murmured, some nodding in agreement, others tensing, ready for the rebuttal. Elon leaned forward into the microphone, his voice even. Technology isn't the problem. The problem is how we use it. Yes, there are flaws in the system, but the answer isn't to tear it all down, it's to innovate, to create new solutions. If we rely only on old systems of government and industry, we'll remain stuck in the past. The future is about technology, yes, but also about new ways of thinking. We need to look at the bigger picture, solutions that might be uncomfortable at first, but will ultimately lead to a better world. The contrast was clear. Rebecca's passionate argument for social justice and reform clashed sharply with Elon's calm, pragmatic approach. The audience was split, some thrilled by Rebecca's fiery ideals, others intrigued by Elon's visionary perspective. But it wasn't just the crowd that felt the tension. Rebecca could feel her heart pounding in her chest. She was ready for this, but she knew Elon Musk wasn't just any opponent. He was someone who made the world listen with every word. His confidence was unnerving, but that only made her more determined. Let's dive into the issues, the moderator said, signaling for the next round of questions. Rebecca, let's start with you. You've been a vocal critic of Elon's position on climate change and his role in the tech industry. But how do you respond to the fact that companies like Tesla are advancing electric vehicle technology, which could help reduce carbon emissions? Rebecca took a deep breath, ready to make her counterpoint. It's true that Tesla is a step forward, but it's not enough. The focus on electric vehicles doesn't address the root causes of climate change. It's a band-aid solution for a system that needs an overhaul. We need to focus on comprehensive policy change, not just innovation for the wealthy. Elon raised an eyebrow, not fazed by her criticism. You're missing the point, Rebecca. The world doesn't wait for perfect policy. It moves forward with practical solutions, even if they're not perfect. What I'm doing with Tesla is showing the world that sustainability can be profitable. That's the key. Change happens when innovation drives progress, not when we wait for politicians to agree. Rebecca's face flushed with frustration. She wasn't about to back down. You're missing the human cost, Elon. For every breakthrough you create, there are people left behind, workers exploited, communities destroyed by environmental degradation. Innovation for the sake of progress isn't enough. We need solutions that serve the people, not just the elite. The crowd was on edge, leaning forward in their seats. The clash between these two ideologies was undeniable. Each point and counterpoint seemed to raise the stakes higher. Rebecca pressed on, her words sharp and impassioned. The real question is, who is benefiting from your solutions, Elon? Who gets to enjoy the fruits of your innovations, while others are left to suffer the consequences? We can't just think about the future, we have to think about who gets left behind. Elon sat back in his chair, seemingly unfazed. I'm thinking about the future, Rebecca. But in order to get there, we need to break free of the old ways of thinking. Technology, in its purest form, is a tool. It can either be used to create a better future, or to continue to prop up systems that are failing. I believe it can be a tool for good, but we have to be willing to embrace it. The room fell into a tense silence. It was clear this debate wasn't just about policies or philosophies, it was about the future of society, the intersection of progress and morality, and the deep divisions that ran through the hearts and minds of the audience. For a moment, it felt as though time stood still. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from, the moderator chimed in, attempting to break the tension. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The debate had only just begun, but it was already clear that this was a clash that would leave a lasting impression on everyone in the room, and perhaps, on the world. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Elon Musk was never supposed to be the person he became. Born in Pretoria, South Africa, in 1971, he came from a modest background. His father, Elon Musk, was an electromechanical engineer, and his mother, May, was a dietitian and a model. They weren't wealthy by any means, but they had a certain kind of ambition that would shape Elon's future in ways they never could have predicted. From a young age, Elon exhibited an insatiable curiosity, a thirst for knowledge that could not be quenched by the ordinary. At just 12 years old, he taught himself computer programming and sold his first video game, Blaster, to a local magazine for $500. It was the first sign of what would become his hallmark, a blend of vision, determination, and the drive to achieve the impossible. But Elon wasn't always the stoic billionaire everyone admired today. He was often an outsider. Growing up, he was bullied at school, the target of cruel jokes and mockery. His awkwardness, paired with his relentless curiosity and inability to conform to social norms, made him a prime target. He recalls these moments with a strange mixture of disdain and gratitude, because in a way, it was those early experiences of loneliness and hardship that pushed him to develop a resilience that would serve him in the most challenging moments of his career. When he moved to Canada at the age of 17 to attend Queen's University, it was a calculated move. His mother had always encouraged him to aim high, but Elon was not yet the man who would go on to disrupt entire industries. In Canada, he found more freedom to think, to fail, and to pursue dreams that seemed too ambitious for most. He eventually transferred to the University of Pennsylvania in the United States, where he studied economics and physics. It was here that his obsession with changing the world began to take root in earnest. In the early days of the internet, he saw the potential to create something that could change the very fabric of society. He dropped out of Stanford University after just 2 days, choosing instead to focus on his burgeoning tech startup, Zip2. His first major venture, Zip2, was a software company that helped newspapers create an online presence. It was a modest beginning, but it would set the stage for everything that came after. As Zip2 grew, so did Elon's reputation as a genius. He sold the company for nearly $300 million in 1999, a fortune he reinvested into a new company, X.com, which would later become PayPal. With PayPal, Elon revolutionized online payments, and once again, he sold the company, this time for $1.5 billion. But even with the millions in his bank account, Elon's focus remained on the bigger picture. He wasn't interested in playing it safe, in taking the easy route. He wanted to go to Mars. He wanted to change the world's energy consumption. He wanted to reshape humanity's destiny. It was his founding of Tesla Motors in 2004 that truly began his journey into the public eye. At the time, the idea of electric cars was still seen as a niche market, an afterthought in the automotive industry. But Elon Musk, with his characteristic determination, saw a different future. He was willing to risk everything to prove that sustainable energy could be not just profitable, but revolutionary. Then came SpaceX, another leap into the unknown. Most experts believed sending private spacecraft into orbit was a pipe dream. But Musk, with his deep belief in the power of innovation, proved them wrong. In 2012, SpaceX became the first private company to dock with the International Space Station. Each of Elon Musk's ventures seemed to push the boundaries of possibility, challenging not just the established industries but the very way society thought about the future. He was often accused of being an idealist, a dreamer who didn't live in the real world. But Elon knew something most people didn't: the future didn't belong to those who played by the rules, it belonged to those who broke them. Yet, despite all his success, Elon's personality remained the same. He wasn't a man interested in fame or the typical trappings of wealth. In interviews, he was known to be blunt, sometimes awkward, and often prone to saying things that seemed to fly in the face of conventional wisdom. It made him polarizing, people either loved him or hated him. But what couldn't be denied was that he had a vision, one that could change the course of human history. Now, standing on the stage at the university, Elon Musk was not the same person who had struggled through his teenage years in South Africa. He was the embodiment of disruptive innovation, a figure both admired and reviled for the very same reasons. But what drove him? What was the core of Elon Musk's personality? The man who had revolutionized transportation and space travel, who had spoken out on everything from artificial intelligence to cryptocurrency, was driven by more than just business success or fame. For Elon, it was about survival. Survival of the human race. Survival of the planet. And most importantly, survival of the dream. The dream of creating something that would leave a mark on humanity. He wasn't just building companies, he was building a future, one where humans could live on Mars, where electric cars were the norm, where AI wasn't something to fear, but something to harness for the greater good. As Elon sat at the debate table, a slight smirk crossed his face. This was what he had prepared for. This was why he was here. To challenge the status quo. To argue against those who believed progress could only come through government intervention, not through innovation. Elon was ready. The tension in the lecture hall was palpable as the debate between Elon Musk and Rebecca Taylor escalated. The crowd was divided, each side fiercely loyal to their respective champion. Elon's supporters sat in rapt attention, eager for him to dismantle Rebecca's arguments with his signature clarity and vision. Rebecca's followers, on the other hand, seemed poised to pounce on every flaw in Elon's logic, their eyes burning with a sense of righteous indignation. Rebecca's fiery eyes scanned Elon's face as she readied herself for the next round of the debate. She wasn't about to back down from a man who represented everything she had spent years fighting against, the unchecked power of billionaires, the environmental destruction caused by corporate greed, and the systemic inequalities perpetuated by technology that served only the privileged few. So, let me get this straight, Rebecca began, her voice steady but full of conviction. You believe that we can change the world through technology alone. But what about the people who get left behind in that so-called progress? What about the workers who are exploited in your factories, the communities devastated by the environmental costs of your innovations? Elon remained calm, his voice unwavering as he responded. Rebecca, innovation is never perfect from the outset. Every step forward has its challenges, but the key is to push through. Yes, there are challenges. But we are working every day to make our systems better, more efficient, more sustainable. The goal is to create a future where technology uplifts everyone, not just a select few. Rebecca's eyes narrowed. She wasn't about to let him off the hook so easily. And yet, when you run your companies, you prioritize profits. You pay lip service to sustainability while relying on fossil fuels to produce the very cars you claim are green. What about the workers who get injured on the job, the ones who are barely making a living wage while you sit on a mountain of wealth? Elon leaned in, his face serious. I'm not perfect, Rebecca. I'll be the first to admit that. But the problem isn't technology. The problem is how we choose to use it. We are taking steps to make the world better, even if it's difficult and requires hard choices. I'd rather be part of the solution than sit on the sidelines criticizing. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, torn between the two. Elon's words had weight, but Rebecca's argument about the human cost was undeniable. The clash of ideals, progress versus responsibility, was heating up, and there was no telling which side would win. The moderator, sensing the rising tension, jumped in. Let's focus on a key point, the role of government in regulating technology and business. Rebecca, you've spoken about the need for stronger oversight. Do you believe that regulation can be the key to ensuring that technological progress benefits society as a whole? Rebecca's eyes brightened as she seized the opportunity. Absolutely. Government regulation is crucial. Without it, companies like Tesla and SpaceX, and the billionaires behind them, will continue to prioritize their profits over the welfare of the people. We need stricter environmental regulations, worker protections, and policies that put people before profits. Elon didn't flinch. Let me be clear, regulation isn't the solution. The more government interferes, the less we can innovate. We need freedom to create, to disrupt the systems that are holding us back. You cannot regulate creativity and progress. Look at how far we've come with technology. The government wasn't the one who put us on the moon or created the internet. It was people willing to take risks, to break the mold. We can't let regulations stifle that. Rebecca's response came fast, her tone sharper now. And you're completely ignoring the fact that unchecked capitalism leads to environmental degradation, human suffering, and a society built on inequality. Sure, we've seen progress, but at what cost? Technological advancements aren't just about the shiny gadgets you sell, they're about the people who build them, and the people who live with the consequences of those inventions. Elon leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. He was used to debates like this, attacks on his character, on his methods, but the passion behind Rebecca's words had started to get under his skin. She was smart, articulate, and more importantly, she had a way of framing the issue that was hard to dismiss. Still, he couldn't let her undermine the very foundation of his beliefs. I understand your concerns, Rebecca. But you're looking at this through a lens of fear. Fear of technology. Fear of change. The reality is, we're facing crises that require urgent action. Climate change, economic inequality, these are not problems that will be solved by doing nothing. They will be solved by embracing technology, by finding solutions that work in the real world. That's why I'm working to make renewable energy viable, to make space travel possible. Because the future won't wait for us to fix everything perfectly before we act. Rebecca shook her head, her hands gripping the edge of the table. You're missing the point. Your solutions are for the privileged. Renewable energy isn't available to everyone. Space exploration doesn't help the people who are struggling to put food on the table. What we need is a fundamental shift in how we think about progress. It can't just be about innovation, it has to be about justice. It has to be about lifting people up, not just increasing profits. Elon's voice hardened. And how do you propose we do that, Rebecca? How do you propose we create a future where people can thrive, not just survive? Do you think the world will change by clinging to old ideas, by relying on outdated systems of government that have failed time and time again? Rebecca didn't back down. Yes, I do. I believe in the power of collective action. I believe in the power of community. And I believe that real change starts from the ground up. Not from the top down. Not from billionaires deciding what's best for everyone. The crowd was on the edge of their seats now, the debate becoming more intense with every exchange. It was clear that this wasn't just a conversation about technology or policy, it was a battle of ideologies. Progress versus equality. Innovation versus justice. As the debate raged on, there was a growing sense that neither side was willing to concede. And as each question was asked, the stakes grew higher. Rebecca was driven by her sense of injustice, by the knowledge that the systems in place were designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many. Elon, on the other hand, was driven by the belief that technology could be the great equalizer, that it could solve the world's most pressing problems, if only people were willing to embrace it. But there was more at stake than just their ideas. This was about their futures, their legacies, and whether they could truly change the world. The debate had reached a boiling point, and neither side was prepared to give an inch. The debate had shifted. No longer was it simply about the principles of innovation or the role of government in technological progress. Now, it was a battle for the soul of the future itself. The stakes had risen so high that every word, every gesture, carried the weight of the future of humanity. Elon could feel it. The tension in the air was thick, and he knew that this moment, this debate, was no longer just a public discussion. It was a test of his vision, of the very essence of what he believed was the key to human survival and advancement. Could his vision of a technologically driven future, one where Mars was the backup plan and the Earth was powered by clean energy, truly come to fruition? Or was Rebecca's vision of collective action, of a society grounded in equality and justice, the path humanity should take? As Rebecca fired back with another attack on his plans for Mars, the crowd erupted into divided applause. Half the room cheered for her impassioned stance against space exploration, calling it a waste of resources, while the other half gave Elon a standing ovation for his unapologetic dedication to pushing humanity beyond the limits of the Earth. Elon's heart raced. He had faced corporate boardrooms, tech giants, and politicians, but this debate, this clash of ideologies, felt like the ultimate battleground. For the first time, Elon felt the weight of all his decisions, the factories, the launches, the research, the criticism, and the relentless pursuit of what seemed impossible. Rebecca's words echoed in his mind. You're ignoring the reality, Elon. Your solutions are for the privileged. You focus on Mars while people here on Earth suffer. The workers in your factories, the communities near your operations, those people are left behind. What about them? The words stung more than he cared to admit. Elon had always prided himself on his vision for the future, on the way he would push the boundaries of space and technology to create something better. But Rebecca's accusation had touched a nerve. Was he so focused on reaching the stars that he had forgotten the people who were grounded here on Earth? The people who worked in his factories, in his companies, those who believed in his mission and yet felt the sting of inequality, of exploitation. A rush of emotions flooded through Elon. He thought about the people who had joined him on this journey, the engineers at Tesla, the scientists at SpaceX, the passionate individuals who believed in a future that seemed too grand to be real. He thought about the first time he stood in the middle of a Tesla factory, watching the production line work tirelessly to bring electric vehicles to the market. The workers there weren't the enemy, they were part of the vision, the backbone of his mission. But then, his mind flickered back to the criticisms, the questions about wages, working conditions, and the environmental impacts of his operations. The tension between his idealistic vision and the reality of the day-to-day operations had always been there, lurking in the background. It was easier to ignore those complexities when you were focused on sending a rocket to Mars or making electric cars mainstream, but now, in this moment, the reality of those issues seemed unavoidable. The crowd's reaction grew louder as the debate continued. Elon looked over at Rebecca, who was leaning forward, her eyes fixed on him. There was no malice in her expression, only a deep sense of urgency. She believed what she was saying with every fiber of her being. And in a strange way, Elon respected her for that. Her commitment to the idea of a better, more just world was admirable, even if he didn't fully agree with her methods. The moderator stepped in, trying to regain control of the increasingly heated discussion. Let's move forward. Elon, you've talked a lot about the importance of innovation. But how do you respond to those who argue that we're innovating at the expense of the planet? Elon took a deep breath. This was it, the moment where he needed to make it clear, not just for Rebecca, but for everyone watching, why he did what he did. There's a misconception that innovation is the enemy of the environment, Elon said, his voice steady. The reality is, the way we live today, the reliance on fossil fuels, the wasteful practices, the pollution, this is what is truly unsustainable. We need to break free from the systems that are killing our planet, and we need to do it fast. Electric cars, solar energy, reusable rockets, they're part of the solution. But it's bigger than that. It's about a revolution in the way we think about energy and technology. Rebecca's voice cut through the air once again. And what about the human cost, Elon? Can you truly say that people aren't suffering in your pursuit of this revolution? Elon's eyes narrowed. He wasn't about to back down. I've never said the road to progress is easy. I've never claimed to have all the answers. But I believe in the power of innovation to change the world. And that's why we push so hard, because the alternative is too dire to ignore. We can't sit back and wait for someone else to solve these problems. The future won't come if we don't build it ourselves. The audience was silent, hanging on every word. Elon could feel the weight of their eyes on him, waiting for his next move. And for the first time, he understood something deeply important. This debate wasn't just about defending his companies or his ideas, it was about defending a way of thinking. A belief that, despite the complexities, the struggles, and the sacrifices, technology could and should be used to improve the world. He wasn't just trying to build companies, he was trying to build a future. A future that could save humanity from the brink of disaster. But was it enough? Could he balance his mission to change the world with the responsibility of ensuring that no one was left behind? The question was hanging in the air, unanswered, as the crowd waited for the next round of responses. The future felt both clear and uncertain. There was so much more to be done, and this debate was only the beginning of a much larger journey, a journey where Elon Musk would have to confront the very limits of his own vision. The debate had reached its peak, and the air in the lecture hall was thick with anticipation. Both Elon Musk and Rebecca Taylor were standing on the edge of something larger than just this conversation. This wasn't about a single debate anymore, it was about the very essence of their beliefs and what each of them represented. As the moderator called for a brief interlude before the final section of the debate, the room seemed to hold its breath. The crowd was divided, some whispering excitedly to one another, others deep in thought, trying to process the weight of everything that had been said. Elon sat in silence, the full gravity of the situation settling over him. He had been in countless high-stakes meetings, but this was different. This wasn't just about making a deal or defending a business model. This was about the kind of world he wanted to build, a world that had the power to save humanity or doom it. Rebecca stood on the other side of the stage, her eyes lost in thought. Her arguments had been sharp, grounded in a vision of fairness, equality, and a belief in the power of community. She wasn't just fighting for a political cause, she was fighting for a vision of a world where no one would be left behind. But as she watched Elon, something deep inside her began to shift. She had always been certain of her beliefs, but now, faced with this relentless push for a better future through technology, she couldn't help but wonder if there was room for both ideals to coexist. When the interlude was over, the moderator stepped forward, his voice breaking the tense silence. We've seen a fierce battle of ideas today, two very different visions of the future. But we're entering the final moments of this debate, and I want to give both of you a chance to reflect on what you've heard from the other side. Elon, Rebecca, what's the one thing you hope people will take away from this debate? Elon stood, his expression more thoughtful than it had been throughout the entire discussion. He knew this was his moment, not to simply defend his position, but to clarify the ultimate message he wanted to send. He could feel the weight of his responsibility as a leader, and for the first time during this debate, he considered the broader implications of his work, not just for technology but for society as a whole. First of all, I respect Rebecca's passion, Elon began, his voice calm yet resolute. She's right about one thing, we are at a crossroads. We're facing an existential crisis on this planet. Climate change, economic inequality, the degradation of our ecosystems, these are real issues that can no longer be ignored. But here's the thing, we can't solve these problems by staying stuck in the past. We can't look at the world as it is and think that more regulation and more government control will save us. The future requires us to innovate, to break the mold, to challenge the systems that have failed us. It's about finding new solutions. Solutions that, yes, require risks and sacrifices, but ultimately, they'll build a future where humanity can thrive. Rebecca's gaze sharpened. She had been waiting for this moment, for Elon to reveal his true convictions, and now, here it was. This was his chance to show the world what he truly believed, and it was the moment she needed to make her final stand. She took a step forward, her voice unwavering. I understand your optimism, Elon, but it's not enough. Innovation alone won't save us. You've talked about the future, about technology, about the need to push the boundaries of what's possible, but you've left out the most important part. The people. The communities that are left behind in the wake of your progress. You talk about Mars, about electric cars, but those things won't solve the inequality and suffering we face right here, right now. We need a future that's not just about innovation, it has to be about justice. It has to be about creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to succeed, not just the ones who can afford the latest technology. For a moment, the room was silent. It was as if the entire world had stopped to listen. Elon's heart thudded in his chest, his mind racing. Rebecca had just dropped the final challenge, the very thing he had been trying to avoid, the uncomfortable truth that the future he was building, for all its promise, was still flawed. He could feel the weight of her words. She was right. He had always focused on the big picture, on the technology, on the grand vision for humanity. But in doing so, he had neglected the smaller, more intimate parts of the equation, the people who were supposed to benefit from this grand vision. The people who were struggling to make ends meet, who worked long hours in factories, who lived in the shadow of the technological revolution he was championing. As the crowd waited for his response, a strange sense of vulnerability washed over Elon. He had spent so many years focusing on building the future that he hadn't fully acknowledged the cracks that were forming in the present. For all his vision, his bold ideas, he couldn't deny the reality of the world around him. Rebecca's voice continued to echo in his mind. What about the people? He took a deep breath. This wasn't just about defending his ideas. This was about confronting the truth, and owning it. Elon, we're at a crossroads. The future isn't just about making Mars our backup plan. It's about making sure everyone here on Earth has a chance to succeed, too. We can't leave anyone behind. Technology can help, but it has to be used to lift everyone up, not just the privileged few. The crowd waited with bated breath. The final question loomed: could Elon reconcile his dream of a technologically advanced future with the pressing need for social justice, equality, and fairness? As the debate drew to a close, the tension in the room was palpable. Both sides had made their cases, but there was no easy answer. Elon's eyes locked with Rebecca's, and for a brief moment, there was understanding between them, not agreement, but an acknowledgement that the journey forward would require compromise, growth, and, most importantly, a willingness to evolve. As the moderator wrapped up the debate, the crowd erupted into applause, though the feeling in the room was far from settled. The questions that had been raised today would not be answered easily. The future was uncertain, and both Elon Musk and Rebecca Taylor knew that the real work was just beginning. And as the crowd began to disperse, one thing was clear: this debate was only the first step in a much larger journey that would define the future of humanity. The aftermath of the debate was a whirlwind. As Elon Musk stepped off the stage, the weight of the last few hours settled in. It was as though the debate had opened a door, one that he couldn't easily close again. For so long, his focus had been on the technological advancements, the bold moves toward a sustainable future through electric cars, solar power, and interplanetary colonization. But now, in the aftermath of that heated exchange with Rebecca Taylor, his mind was consumed with new questions, questions he had never fully considered before. What was the true cost of progress? Could his vision for the future, the one that spanned galaxies and revolutions in energy, be built without leaving people behind? It was a question that haunted him as he walked through the dimly lit hallways of the university, the buzz of conversation from the audience still lingering in the air. As he made his way to the back of the auditorium, his mind began to replay Rebecca's words. What about the people? She had asked, her voice cutting through his defenses. She had been right. For years, he had been so focused on building a future that seemed impossible to most, that he hadn't looked back at the people who would shape that future with him. The workers in his factories, the families impacted by the environmental consequences of his businesses, the communities that felt overlooked in the pursuit of his dream, they were all part of the equation. But what could he do about it now? Was it possible to reconcile the two? Could he build the technology and innovations needed to push humanity forward while also ensuring that the journey was inclusive, that no one would be left behind? He couldn't stop thinking about the words from earlier. For the first time, he felt a sense of humility, a realization that no matter how far he pushed toward the stars, the foundations of his mission were grounded on Earth. The people here, the ones who believed in the future he was trying to create, needed to be seen. Their struggles needed to be addressed, just as much as the grand promises he'd made about space exploration. Later that evening, in the quiet of his private office, Elon sat at his desk, looking out the window at the city below. The lights twinkled in the distance, a testament to the progress that had been made. But his mind was far from at ease. There was something stirring inside him, a shift, a sense of responsibility that he hadn't fully grasped before. For years, he had built his companies with the belief that the future would solve everything. That once the pieces fell into place, once Tesla's cars were on every road, once rockets were routinely launching into space, humanity would be able to transcend the old ways of doing things. It had always been about the technology. But now, he realized that without a clear commitment to the people who were supposed to benefit from this future, those advancements would mean little. As his reflection deepened, Elon picked up his phone and dialed the number of his chief engineer at Tesla. The phone rang for a moment before a voice on the other end picked up. "Elon?" the engineer asked, his voice sounding surprised. "Is everything okay?" "I've been thinking," Elon began, leaning back in his chair. "About something Rebecca said today. It's not just about the technology, is it? We need to do more. We need to ensure that, as we move forward, the people who are part of this, whether they're working in our factories, using our cars, or living in the communities affected by what we're building, are taken care of. I think it's time to reevaluate how we do things." We need to create a future that includes everyone. There was a pause on the other end of the line. You mean more than just the technology itself? Exactly. I want us to start thinking about the social impact, the working conditions, the communities that are integral to this entire mission. We can't just innovate and hope the world catches up. We need to build a sustainable ecosystem, a system where everyone has access to the progress we're making. The engineer seemed to mull this over for a moment. It's a big shift in thinking, Elon. But I think we can do it. It's going to take time, though. I'm willing to make that time, Elon said. This is bigger than just building cars or rockets. This is about creating a legacy that doesn't just move us forward technologically but socially and ethically, too. Elon hung up the phone and let out a deep breath. The road ahead was going to be difficult, he knew that. There would be tough conversations with stakeholders, with investors, with his teams. But this was the moment where everything could change. The debate with Rebecca had served as a wake-up call. No longer could he simply be a visionary who looked to the stars. He needed to be a leader who looked after the people who were working to make that vision a reality. In the days following the debate, Elon continued to meet with his leadership teams, discussing ways to make tangible changes. They began developing new initiatives within Tesla and SpaceX, focusing on worker welfare, fair wages, and community outreach. Elon also reached out to environmental organizations, tech advocates, and even Rebecca herself to explore areas where collaboration could be possible. Rebecca, for her part, had been following the aftermath of the debate closely. She had noticed the shift in Elon's tone, his acknowledgement of the broader implications of his work. It wasn't a full agreement with her vision, but it was a step in the right direction. The world wasn't perfect, but perhaps, together, they could shape a better future, one that took both technology and humanity into account. The path ahead wasn't clear. There would be challenges, compromises, and moments of doubt. But for the first time, Elon felt hopeful, not just about the technology he was building but about the possibility of making a real, positive difference in the lives of the people who were impacted by it. The future was still uncertain, but the journey, he now knew, was about so much more than just reaching Mars. It was about creating a future where no one, not even the most marginalized, was left behind. In the weeks that followed the debate, the buzz around Elon Musk and Rebecca Taylor's clash didn't fade. News outlets, social media platforms, and even casual conversations across the globe were still echoing with the questions they had raised. But for Elon, the most profound shift was not in the public's reaction, it was in his personal reflection and the course of action he was beginning to chart. The tech mogul was, for the first time in his career, unsure of where his singular focus on innovation might lead him. But the uncertainty was not a feeling of defeat, it was the kind of uncertainty that birthed new ideas. Elon was no stranger to risk. In fact, it was risk that had defined his career, whether it was with PayPal, Tesla, or SpaceX. However, this new challenge felt different. It wasn't just about advancing a product or technology, it was about advancing society as a whole. And that required understanding the intricacies of social equity, human need, and environmental justice in ways he hadn't truly considered before. As much as he'd prided himself on pushing the boundaries of space and sustainable energy, there was one frontier he had largely ignored, the people who had to live within the systems he was creating. He was no longer just the man who envisioned life on Mars, he was the man responsible for ensuring that the people of Earth had a future worth living for. The revelations from the debate had sparked something inside him, and he was ready to transform his businesses, his philosophy, and his relationships to reflect this newfound purpose. But the road ahead wasn't going to be easy. It started with a phone call to Rebecca Taylor. Elon knew that to truly build the future he envisioned, he would need to collaborate with those who understood the nuances of social issues and equity, Rebecca being one of them. The debate hadn't led to a clear-cut winner, but it had made him realize the value in the way she approached the challenges of society. He respected her principles and, more importantly, he respected the fact that she had given him something to consider that, until now, he had overlooked. "Rebecca," Elon said when she picked up, his voice calm but tinged with sincerity, "I've been thinking a lot about our debate. About what you said, about the people." "I thought that might be the case," she responded, her tone guarded but curious. "I want to make real changes. I think we can do this together, combine our knowledge, your vision of social justice, and the technology I'm developing. We can create something that works for everyone." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Elon could practically hear her mind working through the possibilities. "You're serious?" she finally asked. "I am," Elon confirmed. "I've always believed in the future and its potential, but now I realize the future is only worth it if it includes everyone. I need your help to ensure that the future I'm creating is equitable, just, and sustainable, not just for those who are already privileged but for everyone." Rebecca didn't respond right away. She'd heard Elon's words before, seen his promises made to the public, and wondered how much he truly meant them. But there was something different this time. There was something earnest in his voice, something that made her think this time might be different. "All right," she said finally. "Let's see if we can bridge the gap between your innovations and the social change we need." Over the next few months, the collaboration between Elon and Rebecca began to take shape. They brought together teams from both Tesla and the advocacy groups Rebecca had worked with. Elon found himself sitting in rooms not just with engineers but with social activists, urban planners, and policymakers, people who were thinking not only about how technology could advance but how it could serve society in a holistic way. They started with a series of initiatives within Tesla. The first was a new worker welfare program that promised better pay, enhanced benefits, and opportunities for advancement to employees who had previously felt ignored in the race for innovation. They didn't just want Tesla employees to be part of a success story, they wanted them to be part of a movement that elevated the standard for workers everywhere. But it wasn't just about internal changes, it was about the community, too. Elon and Rebecca focused their efforts on creating affordable energy solutions for underprivileged neighborhoods. Many low-income families were the most affected by climate change, yet often had the least access to the renewable energy technologies that could alleviate the burden. By subsidizing solar panels and energy storage solutions, Tesla could begin to address the equity gap. And then, there was Mars. It wasn't that Elon had abandoned his dream of making humanity a multiplanetary species, it was that he now understood the importance of building a sustainable, thriving society here on Earth first. While SpaceX continued its efforts to advance space exploration, Elon and Rebecca began discussing how SpaceX technology could also be used to solve more immediate problems, such as delivering humanitarian aid to areas struck by natural disasters or improving internet access in rural and underserved regions. It wasn't a perfect solution, and there were many skeptics who questioned whether Elon's change in direction was more than just a public relations move. But both he and Rebecca were determined to push forward. They knew the journey wouldn't be easy, but they also knew that it was the only path worth walking. One evening, as they were discussing the next phase of their collaboration, Elon looked at Rebecca, his mind still swirling with everything they had yet to accomplish. "You know, when I first started on this journey, I thought the future was about reaching the stars. I never thought I'd be focused on people on the ground, on Earth, with all its messiness and complexity." Rebecca smiled, though her expression was serious. "But that's where the real work is, Elon. It's not enough to change the world through technology if you're not considering how the world works in the first place. Progress has to be for everyone, or it's not progress. I'm starting to see that now," he admitted. "And I'm starting to believe that the future I was chasing wasn't just about escaping Earth, it was about improving it." Rebecca nodded. "Maybe we're both chasing the same thing after all." As they continued to work together, Elon Musk and Rebecca Taylor realized that their partnership was more than just about solving global problems, it was about setting an example for what the future of leadership could look like. It was about showing that people with different worldviews could come together, acknowledge their differences, and still work toward a common goal. They were united by a shared vision of the future, a future where technology wasn't just about progress but about making the world a better place for everyone, not just a privileged few. But even as they took steps forward, the challenges mounted. For every breakthrough they made, there were those who pushed back, whether from Elon's supporters who still clung to the vision of a tech-centric world or from Rebecca's allies who feared that the partnership would compromise their values. But one thing was clear, the road ahead was no longer about winning arguments. It was about finding solutions, no matter how difficult they were. And as they looked toward the future, both Elon and Rebecca knew that the real work was just beginning. As the months passed, the collaboration between Elon Musk and Rebecca Taylor began to take shape in more visible ways. The media, initially skeptical, began to take notice. Articles shifted from focusing on the clash between two opposing forces to highlighting the groundbreaking work they were doing together. It was a story that captured the imagination of many, two very different people, with different backgrounds, coming together for a common cause. For some, it was a hopeful tale of progress; for others, it was an uneasy alliance between technology and activism, the future of innovation seemingly hanging in the balance. Elon found himself in uncharted territory. For years, his name had been synonymous with cutting-edge technology, SpaceX, Tesla, and the relentless push toward a future where humanity was free from the constraints of Earth. But now, with each passing day, he was being confronted with a new kind of challenge, a challenge that involved not just the technological aspects of his companies but the social and ethical ones. Was it enough to build a new world on Mars if that world wasn't equitable? Could technological progress be truly meaningful if it left vast swathes of society behind? These questions gnawed at him, even as he continued to push forward with his projects. It wasn't just the larger political and social implications that concerned him, it was the pushback from his own supporters. Not everyone was on board with the changes he was championing. At a shareholder meeting for Tesla, Elon stood before a room full of investors, their faces a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. He had just finished detailing the company's new initiatives: worker welfare programs, subsidized solar technology for underserved communities, and a new initiative to make electric cars more affordable for low-income families. There was a murmur of concern in the room. Elon, one of the senior investors, spoke up, his tone measured, but clearly uneasy. "These initiatives are admirable, but we're here to talk about the bottom line. Will these changes compromise profitability? You're making promises that sound like they could cost us millions, maybe billions, in the short term." Elon had anticipated this. He had spent hours preparing for questions like this. In the long run, Elon began, investing in people, in sustainability, in social equity, those are the things that will drive the future. This isn't just about making money today. It's about ensuring that Tesla, and all of our companies, are part of the solutions the world desperately needs. And that, I believe, will make us stronger in the long run. Another voice cut in. "But what about the risks? You've always been a risk taker, but this feels different. You're gambling with more than just the future of Tesla, you're gambling with your legacy." Elon's eyes narrowed. "Sometimes the greatest risks lead to the greatest rewards," he said firmly. "And I'm not in this for just profits. I'm in this to change the world, and that means thinking beyond what's easy or profitable right now." The room fell silent. It was clear that not everyone shared his vision, and the resistance was palpable. But Elon remained resolute. He wasn't backing down. Not now. The pushback was not limited to the boardrooms of his companies. Outside the corporate world, the critics were just as vocal. There were pundits on both the left and the right who felt uneasy about the direction he was taking. Some saw him as selling out to the social justice movement, while others viewed him as trying to soften the hard edges of his tech-driven empire with something that could seem too idealistic or impractical. Rebecca, ever the advocate for her cause, had warned him that this would happen. "Elon, it's going to get rough," she'd said during one of their many strategy meetings. "When you push for something new, people will resist. Change, real change, is always met with fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of losing control. The people who once supported you are going to question whether you're compromising your principles. I know, Elon had responded. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. The question is not whether there's resistance, it's whether we can continue to move forward despite it. Rebecca was feeling the pressure from her side as well. Her allies, the activists, had been supportive when the collaboration first began. They had seen in Elon the potential for radical change, someone with the resources, the ambition, and the global platform to make real, lasting improvements. But as Elon began to make moves that seemed too closely aligned with business as usual, doubts crept in. I thought this was supposed to be about changing the system, not just fixing the edges of it, one of her colleagues, Maya, said during a meeting in Rebecca's office. You're working with Musk, the guy who's made billions off of fossil fuels. Can we really trust him to do more than put a band-aid on the system? Rebecca paused, her eyes looking out the window as she processed the concern. She had heard similar comments from others in her circle. There was a growing unease. I know this isn't the easy route, Rebecca said finally, turning to face Maya. But if we can influence someone like Elon, if we can use his platform and resources to bring about change, then isn't that a win? Maybe he's not perfect, but he's trying. And if we don't work with him, who else is going to have that kind of reach? If we sit on the sidelines and criticize, we risk watching opportunities pass us by. Maya wasn't convinced. I get it, Rebecca. But we need to hold him accountable. If he starts backtracking, if he starts prioritizing profits over people again, we need to call him out. Rebecca nodded. We will. But right now, I think we have to give this a chance. The tension was building on all sides, and Elon felt it. But he was determined to continue pushing forward, to create something that didn't just serve the elites or the powerful, it had to serve everyone. And he knew that if he was to succeed in this new direction, he needed to prove that his vision could work for the people on the ground just as much as it worked for the people who had always been at the top. He reached out to Rebecca again, calling her late one evening. Rebecca, I've been thinking a lot. We need to make sure we're not just reacting to the resistance. We need to be more proactive, show that this isn't just a flash-in-the-pan idea. We need to start seeing real, tangible results, and fast. I agree, she replied, her voice steady. But we also have to remember that real change takes time. You can't rush these things. I know, Elon said, exhaling deeply. But I'm ready. The world needs it, and so do I. We need to show them that a future built on innovation can also be a future built on fairness. As Elon and Rebecca worked through the growing pains of their partnership, they understood that change would never be easy. There would always be resistance, always be those who would doubt the sincerity of their intentions. But they also knew that the greatest challenges often led to the most significant victories. It was at these crossroads, in the midst of uncertainty, that the true test of their alliance would emerge. Would they be able to create something that was both revolutionary and compassionate? Could they navigate the complex intersection of progress and fairness, technology and humanity, without losing sight of their core mission? Only time would tell. It had been almost a year since Elon Musk and Rebecca Taylor began their collaboration. The growing tension they had felt in the earlier stages of their partnership had evolved into a deeper understanding of their shared mission. The first major initiative they launched, a comprehensive program designed to provide affordable clean energy to low-income neighborhoods, had been a remarkable success. Tesla's solar panels and Powerwall systems, once considered out of reach for many, were now being installed in homes that needed them the most. Entire communities, especially in underprivileged urban areas and rural locations, were experiencing the power of renewable energy for the first time. With subsidies and partnerships from both the public and private sectors, Tesla was able to expand the program beyond what even Elon had imagined. It wasn't just about installing technology, it was about uplifting families, giving them control over their energy bills, and making them less vulnerable to the rising costs of traditional utilities. And yet, despite the early success, not everything was smooth sailing. Elon stood in the conference room at Tesla's headquarters, flipping through a report on the initiative's first quarter results. There was data showing marked improvements, lower electricity bills, fewer power outages, and a growing interest from other underserved communities. But even as he skimmed through the numbers, he could sense the undercurrent of resistance from within Tesla's higher-ups. One of the company's senior executives, David Hollingsworth, was already in the room, tapping his fingers anxiously on the desk. "Elon, we've had some significant pushback from the board," he said, his voice laced with unease. "This whole push for affordable energy for low-income families is costing us. We've seen some positive PR, but let's be real, these aren't the kind of results we were expecting for an investment of this scale." Elon's gaze sharpened. "David, I know the numbers look challenging now, but you're not looking at the bigger picture. This is about future-proofing the company. We're not just building solar panels, we're building the foundation for a future where energy is accessible and affordable for everyone. And that kind of change will make Tesla not just a car company, but a leader in sustainable energy." David crossed his arms, clearly unconvinced. "But how do you explain the short-term costs to our shareholders? They're already getting nervous about the bottom line." Elon stood, pacing the room, his mind racing with ideas. He had always been a visionary, focused on the long game. But even he knew that making these changes without addressing short-term concerns would be a precarious balancing act. "Tell them that I've made worse gambles before," Elon said, his voice steady. "And they've paid off. Tesla's not just about building the best cars anymore. It's about creating solutions to the world's biggest problems. That's where the real value is." David looked at him skeptically. "And if it doesn't pay off? What if this experiment doesn't work?" Elon paused for a moment, locking eyes with his executive. "If it doesn't work, we'll learn from it and try something else. But we won't stop trying. Not now. Not when we've seen what's possible." David didn't seem entirely convinced, but he nodded begrudgingly. Elon could tell that the resistance within the company was real. Some people had a difficult time seeing beyond the current profits, beyond the status quo. But Elon wasn't in this for status quo results. He had a different vision now. As they pushed forward with their initiatives, Elon continued to lean heavily on Rebecca's advice. Her insight into social justice and her deep understanding of systemic inequality kept his efforts grounded. Every time the challenge seemed insurmountable, Rebecca reminded him that the work they were doing was more than just a business venture, it was a movement. Rebecca often called Elon in the late evenings after he'd finished his long hours at Tesla and SpaceX, offering a sounding board for his frustrations and victories alike. It was during one of these phone calls that Elon found himself confiding in her about the pressure from the board. "They don't see it, Rebecca," Elon said one night, his tone heavy. "They're so focused on quarterly earnings, on projections, that they're missing the bigger picture. I can't keep playing by the same old rules." "I know," Rebecca replied, her voice warm and reassuring. "But remember, you're playing a longer game. If this is about changing the world, you have to expect the resistance. The same thing happened when I first started pushing for affordable healthcare. People don't always see the value in progress until it's already here." Elon chuckled softly. "I've been hearing that for years. It's just that I'm used to making big waves, but now it feels like I'm swimming against the current." "You're not swimming alone," she reminded him. "There are a lot of people who are with you. You just have to keep pushing. The victory isn't in doing what's easy, it's in doing what's right." The turning point came when a prominent nonprofit organization, one that focused on advancing economic equality, publicly endorsed Tesla's new energy initiatives. Their support was a game-changer. The organization, with its vast network and public influence, rallied behind the idea of sustainable energy as a means to fight poverty and inequality. Suddenly, Tesla's work wasn't just a small-scale experiment, it was a symbol of what could happen when corporations used their power to make a tangible, positive impact on society. This endorsement sparked a wave of public support, and soon, Tesla's stock began to climb once more. Investors, who had initially been skeptical, began to see the long-term value in Elon's vision. More importantly, people began to trust that the company was headed in the right direction. As word spread about Tesla's efforts to provide clean, affordable energy to marginalized communities, the media began covering the story in a more positive light. For Elon, it wasn't just about the financial success, it was about seeing the tangible effects of his work on people's lives. He received letters from families who had their energy bills cut in half, from communities that no longer had to rely on unreliable and expensive power grids. The impact of the project was undeniable. People were not just seeing the future of technology, they were living it. One afternoon, as Elon stood in front of a newly built solar farm in a rural area, he couldn't help but feel a deep sense of pride. The sun was setting, casting a golden light over the panels, which stretched for miles. There were workers bustling about, finishing up their tasks for the day. A group of local residents gathered nearby, their faces beaming with hope. Rebecca was beside him, her smile wide. "It's working, Elon. This is just the beginning." "I know," he said quietly, watching the horizon. "This is just the start of something bigger. But it's a start that feels right." Rebecca placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're changing the world. Don't forget that." And for the first time in a long time, Elon Musk believed that the world they were building was one worth fighting for, not just for the people at the top, but for everyone. The success of their clean energy initiative had, for a time, quelled some of the doubters. Tesla's stock was soaring again, and Elon Musk seemed to have proven that his vision wasn't just about pushing technological boundaries but about reshaping society in a more inclusive, sustainable way. Public opinion had shifted, and even the more critical board members began to soften their stance. But as Elon sat in his office late one evening, reviewing the next phase of the project, he felt the weight of the world pressing on him. The company had made strides, yes. They had launched pilot programs that had delivered energy solutions to thousands of families across the country, but the real challenge was just beginning. His ambitious dream of global transformation required resources that were not easily obtained, and more than that, it needed an unwavering commitment from every part of society, especially from the powerful forces that had always maintained control. The phone on his desk buzzed. It was a text from Rebecca. "We need to talk. Urgent." Elon sighed, already knowing that the calm they had enjoyed would be short-lived. With everything moving at full speed, the roadblocks had only gotten bigger, and the political and corporate resistance they faced was more pronounced than ever. A few days later, Elon met Rebecca in a quiet corner of a bustling cafe in downtown Palo Alto. She arrived a bit late, her usual calm demeanor giving way to a look of urgency. They ordered coffee, but neither of them drank it. Instead, they dove straight into the discussion that had been weighing on both their minds. "I've been getting calls," Rebecca said, her voice low, "and not the good kind. The establishment is pushing back harder than I expected. And I'm not just talking about the corporations. There are politicians on both sides now starting to question the legitimacy of the work we're doing. They're calling us too radical and too idealistic. There's a growing narrative that what we're doing isn't sustainable. That we're too focused on the people and not enough on the profits." Elon leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing slightly as he processed what Rebecca had just said. This was what he feared would happen. The very same resistance they had worked so hard to push through was beginning to organize itself against them. "Radical?" Elon repeated, shaking his head. "When did wanting to make the world better become radical? Isn't that what technology is supposed to do, improve people's lives? That's the whole point of everything I've done. But now it's all about managing optics, controlling the narrative, keeping people comfortable." Rebecca nodded, frustration evident on her face. "And the worst part is that they're starting to get to the media. The stories are shifting again, more negative press. The public's buying into the idea that we're overextending. I don't know how much longer we can keep this going without more support. Elon took a deep breath, his fingers drumming softly on the table. He had been here before. He had faced skepticism, doubt, and hostility when launching SpaceX, when introducing the Tesla Roadster, when suggesting that electric cars could become mainstream. Every major project in his career had been met with resistance, and yet, each time, he had found a way to push through. But now, the stakes felt higher. This wasn't just about one company or one idea. This was about a fundamental shift in how the world approached energy, sustainability, and equality. It's not just about the tech, Elon said finally, looking Rebecca in the eyes. This is about challenging the status quo, about taking on entrenched systems that profit from keeping people dependent on outdated, harmful practices. And the truth is, they're scared of losing that control. Rebecca sighed. I know. But it's not just the corporations, it's the people. Not everyone believes that change is possible. They see our efforts as an attack on their way of life. I don't have all the answers, Elon admitted, rubbing his eyes. But I can't just stand by and let this moment pass. People are hurting out there. We can't let this be just another project. This needs to be a movement. It needs to be about more than just our companies. It's about people's lives. Rebecca leaned in closer, her voice low but insistent. But we can't do it alone, Elon. We need more than just tech. We need to build coalitions. We need the right allies, people who are already working on the ground in these communities. Otherwise, it'll just be seen as another corporate PR stunt. Elon took another deep breath. He knew what Rebecca was saying was true. He couldn't do it alone. The power structures, the political systems, they were too big to overcome without broader support. If they wanted real change, it would have to be a collective effort. I'll start reaching out, Elon said after a long pause. We'll build those alliances. But this isn't just about buying influence. This is about genuinely changing the way people think about energy, about opportunity, and about fairness. We'll push the boundaries, Rebecca. No matter how hard it gets. Rebecca gave him a small smile, one that felt like a moment of reassurance. That's the Elon I know. Just remember, you're not alone in this. And we've already come so much further than anyone expected. We can do this. As the days passed, Elon and Rebecca worked relentlessly, reaching out to new partners, fostering relationships with grassroots organizations, and involving local activists who had first-hand knowledge of the struggles many communities faced. They knew they had to meet the people where they were, not in the boardrooms or on social media, but on the ground, in their homes, in their neighborhoods. They had to show the world that change wasn't something imposed from the top down, but something that came from within. It wasn't long before Elon found himself in a large community center in Detroit, speaking to a group of local activists and residents who had long fought for affordable access to clean energy. The meeting was tense, some attendees were skeptical of Elon's promises, while others were more open but still cautious. But as Elon spoke, as he shared his vision for the future, a shift began to take place. We're not just here to install solar panels, Elon said, his voice firm but passionate. We're here to give you the tools you need to take control of your energy future. This is about empowerment. We want you to have the resources, the knowledge, and the independence to shape your own destiny. This is your fight, too. And we are here to help you win it. By the end of the meeting, the room was buzzing with energy. People began to see the potential in what Elon was offering, not just as a businessman, but as someone who genuinely believed in the power of change. The resistance, both external and internal, hadn't disappeared. But in that moment, with those faces staring back at him, Elon felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were on the cusp of something much larger than they had ever anticipated, and despite all the obstacles, they weren't backing down. The tipping point had come. And now, it was time to push forward into uncharted territory. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? As Tesla's initiative to bring affordable clean energy to the masses continued to gain momentum, the weight of success started to take its toll. The buzz of excitement surrounding the program was undeniable, but with each victory came new challenges, many of them far more complex and difficult to manage than Elon Musk had anticipated. The financial costs were climbing faster than anticipated, and as their work expanded to more cities, the logistical hurdles became more daunting. Elon spent long hours in meetings, balancing the future of Tesla's vision with the practicalities of running a rapidly growing business. He was used to the pressure, after all, it was part of the daily reality at SpaceX and Tesla. But the strain of fighting against the tide of corporate inertia, skepticism, and political pushback was taking its toll in ways he hadn't fully expected. One evening, as Elon sat at his desk reviewing budgets and reports for Tesla's renewable energy division, his phone buzzed with another urgent message from Rebecca. "Can you meet? Things are getting messy. We need to talk ASAP." The sense of urgency was palpable. Elon quickly texted back, setting a time for a late-night meeting at Tesla's headquarters. It wasn't unusual for them to meet at unconventional hours. They were used to working through the night to push their projects forward. But tonight felt different. The weight of Rebecca's message made Elon uneasy. Something was wrong, and he could feel it in his bones. When Rebecca arrived, her usual calm demeanor had been replaced by a look of frustration. She wasted no time in getting to the point. "Elon, I've been talking to some of our community partners in Detroit. There's a backlash brewing. Some of the local leaders are starting to question whether we're really walking the walk. They feel like we're more interested in pushing our technology than actually empowering their communities. There's a perception that we're just using them to make ourselves look good." Elon's brow furrowed. "But we're not doing this for PR, Rebecca. We're doing this because it's the right thing to do. They know that." "I wish that were enough," Rebecca replied, her voice tinged with frustration. "But to them, it doesn't feel like we're listening. We're coming in with our shiny tech and our grand ideas, but they're asking for more. They're asking for a real commitment, not just products and systems, but a partnership. And right now, it feels transactional." Elon leaned back in his chair, rubbing the bridge of his nose. He had expected resistance, he knew change was never easy, and he had faced criticism before. But this was different. They weren't just battling the usual corporate opposition anymore. They were facing skepticism from the very people they were trying to help. "They're right," Elon admitted. "I've been so focused on the technology, on the big picture, that I've overlooked the human element. I've failed to connect with them on a personal level. It's not enough to show up with solutions, we need to build trust, build relationships. I'll go there. I'll talk to them directly. I'll show them that we're committed, not just in words, but in action." Rebecca nodded. "That's exactly what they need to hear from you. They need to see that you're not just some tech billionaire trying to make a name for yourself. They need to see that you're in this for the long haul." The next morning, Elon boarded a flight to Detroit, his mind focused on the challenge ahead. As he landed and made his way to the meeting, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was a turning point, one that would determine whether their efforts would succeed or falter. Upon arrival, Elon was greeted by a group of local community leaders. They were skeptical, their faces guarded as they shook his hand. Elon could feel the weight of their mistrust, he could almost taste it in the air. The meeting was held in a modest community center. The room was filled with a mix of local activists, concerned citizens, and a few key figures who had been vocal in their criticism of Tesla's approach. The air was thick with tension as Elon sat down to address the group. "I want to be clear about something," Elon began, his voice steady but earnest. "I'm here because I believe in what we're trying to do. I believe in the power of clean energy to change lives. But I also understand that I haven't done enough to make you feel like we're partners in this. I've been so focused on the technology that I didn't listen closely enough to your concerns. And for that, I'm sorry. A woman in the back stood up, her arms crossed. It's not just about the technology. It's about control. You come into our communities with your shiny new toys, but what we need is not just energy, we need real solutions to our problems. We need jobs, education, and long-term commitments. We've seen this before, corporations promising the world, only to leave once they've made their profit. How can we trust that Tesla won't do the same? Elon nodded, taking in her words. I understand why you feel that way. And I won't stand here and tell you that we've done everything right. But I'm here to listen. I'm not just trying to sell you products, I'm trying to create an opportunity. I'm here to figure out how we can make this a true partnership, one where everyone benefits. Let's figure out how to work together to build something that lasts. The room was silent for a long moment. Elon could see the wariness in their eyes. But slowly, one by one, people began to speak up. They talked about the real challenges they faced, rising utility costs, unreliable power grids, and a lack of investment in the communities they called home. They spoke of broken promises from past projects that had promised change but ultimately delivered nothing. But as the conversation continued, something unexpected began to happen. The walls of suspicion started to come down. People began to ask questions, to probe Elon about his plans, about the details of Tesla's long-term commitment to the community. And as Elon answered, he realized that the path forward wasn't just about offering technology, it was about offering a vision that aligned with their hopes for the future. By the end of the meeting, the tone had shifted dramatically. The community leaders agreed to continue the conversation, but they made it clear that Tesla's efforts had to be sustained and supported beyond just the installation of solar panels. Elon left the meeting with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in a long time. He knew that the road ahead would be more difficult than he had anticipated. The financial hurdles, the political resistance, and the corporate pushback were still very real. But for the first time in a while, he felt like they had a real chance of making a difference, not just in terms of technology, but in terms of building lasting partnerships that could stand the test of time. It was a humbling experience, but it was also a reminder of why he had started this journey in the first place. The meeting in Detroit had been a success, but as Elon Musk left the city, he knew the hard work was just beginning. The community leaders had agreed to work with Tesla, but it was clear that their expectations had shifted. They wanted more than just clean energy solutions, they wanted to see long-term, genuine commitment. And while Elon was determined to meet those demands, he was also feeling the pressure mounting from other sides. The corporate world, once interested in his vision, had started to pull away as he pushed further into uncharted territory. Elon knew that alliances were critical, especially now. As Tesla's operations expanded, so did the number of industries and companies that stood to lose if his clean energy revolution succeeded. The more progress Tesla made, the more resistance they faced. Powerful corporations, entrenched in the old ways of doing business, weren't going to let go without a fight. But Elon had never been one to shy away from a challenge. His track record, from the early days of Tesla to the triumphs of SpaceX, had proven that he could take on the biggest obstacles. And yet, this was different. The stakes weren't just about breaking barriers in space or automotive technology, this was about reshaping the very fabric of society, about toppling the systems that controlled everything from the energy we consume to the policies that governed it. Elon's thoughts were interrupted by a text message from his team, urgent conference call in 10 minutes. The board needs to discuss the new developments in the energy sector. Prepare yourself. Elon joined the call, his face set in a serious expression. The board members didn't waste time getting to the point. Elon, the numbers are showing that Tesla's renewable energy division is burning through capital faster than we anticipated, said one of the members, his tone matter-of-fact but concerned. The public relations side is mixed. While we've had some success in places like Detroit, the broader market isn't as receptive as we hoped. The pushback from the fossil fuel industry is only increasing, and it's starting to affect stock performance. We need to reassess our strategy. Elon took a deep breath. He'd known this moment was coming. The financials were starting to reflect the tension between innovation and practicality, between vision and the demands of the market. It was always a balancing act, and it wasn't always easy to keep the scales tipped toward progress. I understand the concerns, Elon responded. But if we pull back now, if we listen to the short-term pressures, we're essentially admitting defeat. This is a long-term play, and the early stages are always the hardest. We knew this wouldn't be easy. There was a pause on the call before another voice piped up. We know, Elon. But at some point, you have to face the reality that not everyone is going to follow you. We're getting resistance not only from corporations but also from politicians. And the media's narrative is shifting. You're making enemies out there, and it's hurting us. I'm not trying to make enemies, Elon said firmly. I'm trying to change the world. I won't back down just because it's hard. If anything, that makes me more determined. The room was silent for a moment before another board member spoke up. Look, Elon, we all admire your tenacity, but the reality is that our investors are getting nervous. We have to find a way to navigate this without alienating our corporate partners or losing our investors. Elon knew this was the point where he could either dig in and push through, or he could compromise in a way that would stifle the very innovation he was trying to build. He wasn't interested in compromising. We're not just a tech company, we're a movement, Elon said, his voice unwavering. And movements aren't born out of comfort or compromise. They're born out of pushing through the obstacles, no matter how hard it gets. If we're going to succeed in this mission, we need to focus on building long-term relationships with communities, not short-term gains with investors. I'll take the heat, but I'm not going to let this fail because of pressure. As the call ended, Elon sat back in his chair, his mind racing. He knew what he had to do, but the road ahead was still uncertain. The board was right to be concerned about the capital burn rate, but Elon wasn't interested in backing down. He had always believed in the power of his vision, and he wasn't about to let temporary setbacks sway him from his mission. That evening, as he sat alone in his office, reviewing the feedback from the meeting and the media coverage that had followed, a new message popped up on his screen. It was from his old friend and rival, Jeff Bezos. Elon, I hear you're shaking things up again. You know I've always respected your drive, but you might want to consider how much resistance you're creating. There's a limit to how much you can challenge the system before it pushes back. Elon frowned as he read the message. He knew that Jeff's advice came from a place of experience. Jeff had faced similar obstacles when building Amazon. But Elon wasn't Jeff. He wasn't looking to dominate the market through incremental changes. He was looking to fundamentally transform it. He quickly typed back a response. I'm not afraid of the pushback, Jeff. In fact, I welcome it. It's the only way to change things. I'm not in this for the easy wins, and I'm not here to build a company that just follows the rules. I'm here to change the game. As he hit send, Elon knew that the next phase of their journey would be one of the most difficult yet. The road ahead would be filled with more resistance, more challenges, and more enemies. But as always, he felt a surge of determination. This was his moment, Tesla's moment, and nothing would stop him from pushing forward. The following days brought more challenges. There were meetings with regulators, consultations with legal teams, and endless negotiations with potential allies. Tesla was now in the crosshairs of some of the most powerful industries in the world, and they were playing hardball. But as the pressure mounted, Elon remained resolute. He spent more time in the field, meeting with local leaders and discussing how Tesla could do more to help their communities. At the same time, he was building new alliances, reaching out to progressive politicians and influential figures who shared his vision of a cleaner, fairer future. Every conversation, every negotiation, felt like another battle in a larger war. And yet, Elon knew that this was the cost of progress. The world was changing, and those who were comfortable with the old systems would fight tooth and nail to keep things the same. But in the end, change always came, one way or another. And Elon Musk wasn't about to let the old guard win. As Tesla's clean energy movement gained more traction, the challenges continued to mount. While Elon Musk was confident in his vision for the future, the pressures surrounding Tesla only grew. From board members to investors, and even from local communities, there were constant calls for faster results, clearer commitments, and, most of all, assurances that Tesla could navigate the complex world of politics and finance without compromising its mission. But Elon wasn't just dealing with internal struggles. An entirely new challenge had emerged from an unexpected place, a rival tech giant with deep pockets and a sleek, modern facade that seemed to promise the same thing Tesla was striving for, but with fewer strings attached. The company was called Solaris Energy, and it was founded by none other than a former colleague of Elon's, Alex Carter. Alex was an entrepreneur and a visionary, much like Elon. They had once collaborated on a few tech projects early in their careers before their paths diverged. Elon had always respected Alex's intelligence and drive, but it seemed that now Alex had decided to carve out a path that directly competed with Tesla's clean energy initiative. Solaris had quickly gained a reputation for its streamlined approach to solar technology. They were pushing the boundaries of innovation with their solar roof tiles, similar to Tesla's solar roof but with a much faster rollout. While Tesla's solar roofs were still seen as a work in progress, Solaris had deployed thousands of installations in record time. They claimed to offer a more affordable alternative, boasting lower upfront costs and quicker integration. The media couldn't get enough of it. Headlines were flooded with comparisons between the two companies, and soon, the narrative began to shift. Where Tesla's clean energy initiative had once been the darling of Silicon Valley, Solaris now became the new contender to take the crown. Investors were nervous, questioning whether Tesla could keep up with Solaris's rapid expansion. Elon watched the rising tide of support for Solaris with a mixture of admiration and frustration. Alex's company was using the same playbook that Tesla had, the promise of affordable, clean energy for all. The problem was, Solaris seemed to be skipping over the more difficult parts of the equation, focusing only on speed and affordability. They didn't have the same commitment to sustainable, large-scale infrastructure that Tesla was investing in. Alex, it seemed, was content to move fast and get results, even if it meant compromising on the long-term vision that Elon held dear. It wasn't long before Elon received a message from Alex. "Hey Elon, I see you've been busy building your empire. But I wanted to let you know, Solaris is coming for you. It's not personal, just business. We're going to make clean energy affordable for everyone, and we'll do it faster than you ever could." Elon had expected something like this. Alex wasn't known for pulling punches, and now it was clear that the competition was about to get personal. The following week, a major event in the energy industry was scheduled to take place, the Global Renewable Energy Summit in New York City. It was the perfect stage for Alex to make his big move, and it wasn't lost on Elon that he'd be competing directly against his old friend. It was going to be a battle of visions, one that could define the future of clean energy. Elon had a difficult decision to make. Should he continue to focus on the long-term goal of revolutionizing energy infrastructure, despite the slower pace of development? Or should he shift gears, speeding up Tesla's rollout and risk compromising the quality and sustainability that had made their approach different from Solaris's? His thoughts were interrupted by a call from Rebecca. "Elon, I know what you're thinking. And I think we need to take the gloves off." Elon sat up straighter. "What do you mean? You can't let Alex define this. Solaris is moving fast, but they're missing something important. They're cutting corners. If you want to win this fight, you need to double down on what makes Tesla unique, our commitment to not just technology, but the people and communities we serve. Don't get caught up in the race for speed. Focus on the long-term value we're creating." Elon was quiet for a moment, processing her words. He had been so focused on competing directly with Solaris that he had lost sight of the bigger picture. It wasn't just about being first to market, it was about creating a sustainable, lasting impact. "You're right," Elon said finally. "I've been so focused on keeping up with them that I've lost sight of why we're doing this in the first place. We're not here for a quick win. We're here to change the world, and that takes time." Rebecca smiled. "Exactly. Let Solaris do their thing. We'll stick to our plan. We're in this for the long haul." The day of the summit arrived, and Elon stood backstage, preparing to take the stage for his keynote speech. He could feel the weight of the moment. This was his opportunity to remind the world why Tesla's mission was about more than just clean energy, it was about revolutionizing the way society operated. They were not only delivering energy solutions, they were building an entirely new framework for sustainable living. Meanwhile, Alex was already on stage, presenting Solaris's vision with his signature confidence. His message was clear: Solaris was the future. They were fast, efficient, and focused on scaling up quickly. Their solar panels, already installed in homes across the country, were hailed as the next big thing in the energy revolution. The crowd was enamored with Alex's smooth delivery and his promises of instant transformation. As Elon took the stage moments later, he was met with a mix of anticipation and skepticism. He wasn't the flashy showman that Alex was, and he knew it. But what he had, which Alex didn't, was a commitment to doing things the right way. Elon cleared his throat and began. "I've heard a lot about fast solutions, how quick fixes and rapid deployment can change the world. But the reality is, true change takes time. True change requires vision, and most importantly, it requires sustainability. We're not just selling products, we're offering a future. And that future isn't one built on shortcuts. It's one built on long-term infrastructure, on communities that will benefit for generations to come." The crowd was silent as Elon continued, his voice steady and powerful. He spoke about the challenges Tesla had faced, the slow and often painful process of changing industries that had been stuck in their ways for decades. But through it all, he remained confident in Tesla's mission, because he knew it was the right path. There was no shortcut to revolution. There was no easy way forward. The crowd seemed to hang on every word. Elon could feel the shift, the moment where he regained control of the narrative. He wasn't going to allow Solaris to define the energy future. Tesla's vision was too important, and he wasn't about to let it be drowned out by promises of instant results. As he wrapped up his speech, Elon knew that the battle with Solaris was far from over. But he also knew that he had reminded the world why Tesla was different, and that difference was enough to win in the long run. The Global Renewable Energy Summit had been a turning point, but the true battle had only just begun. After Elon's speech, the media buzzed with talk about the stark contrast between his vision and Alex Carter's approach. Although Alex's company had generated a lot of buzz, Elon's words resonated deeply with those who believed that true change didn't come from quick fixes, it came from building something sustainable, something that could last for generations. But the battle for the future of clean energy was not fought only in the media or on stage. It was also fought in boardrooms, with politicians, and behind the scenes with corporate allies and enemies. And right now, Elon was at the crossroads of a decision that could make or break Tesla's momentum. After the summit, Elon received an unexpected call from someone he hadn't heard from in years, Mark Zuckerberg. The CEO of Meta, who had been in the tech spotlight for much of the past decade, was known for his quiet and strategic maneuvers. They had shared a few discussions in the past about the future of technology and clean energy, but never had a real partnership materialized. "Elon," Mark said, his voice calm but with a sense of urgency. "I've been following everything with Solaris, and I have to say, you're handling this well. But I think you might need an ally. And it's time to start thinking bigger." Elon paused. "What do you mean by bigger, Mark?" "I mean, you're not going to win this just by beating Solaris at their own game. They'll always have the upper hand when it comes to speed. What you need is a way to leverage what Tesla has already built and expanded, rapidly, and without sacrificing your vision. Elon leaned back in his chair. I've been thinking about that too, but how do we scale up without selling out? That's the thing. You don't have to sell out. You need a partner who understands that. And who also has the resources to make it happen. I can help you create a global network of infrastructure, something beyond the US, something that can scale even faster than Solaris. Meta has the global reach, the data, the network. We can help you make this vision of yours global in a way that's never been done before. You can keep your integrity and build something massive at the same time. Elon mulled over the idea. Meta, with its vast reach and influence, could be the key to unlocking Tesla's next phase of expansion. It wasn't just about technology or products anymore, it was about building a global ecosystem that could truly change the energy landscape. This could be the partnership that would enable Tesla to push its renewable energy goals faster, without compromising the long-term vision that had always driven the company. Let's talk, Elon said. I'm listening. The next few weeks were filled with intense meetings, brainstorming sessions, and discussions on logistics. Mark's offer wasn't just about money, it was about data. Meta's global platform provided the perfect infrastructure to accelerate Tesla's renewable energy adoption. With Meta's extensive network of global users and access to real-time data, they could create energy solutions that were dynamically responsive to local needs. The partnership, once agreed upon, would see Meta's AI and data-driven insights combined with Tesla's solar technology and battery storage solutions. The collaboration would allow communities around the world to implement clean energy systems tailored to their specific demands, creating a model of localized energy generation that could be expanded on a global scale. But the collaboration wasn't without risks. Elon knew that working with Meta meant navigating a delicate balance. Meta had its own set of goals and business interests, and though Mark had made it clear that he understood Tesla's mission, there was always the risk of the tech giant's influence shifting the focus away from Tesla's long-term environmental goals. However, Elon wasn't one to back away from a challenge. If he was going to reshape the world's energy future, he needed to leverage every tool at his disposal. It was time to think bigger. The official announcement of the partnership came a month later, and the response was immediate. Media outlets were buzzing with excitement, and the stock market reacted positively, with Tesla's shares climbing after the news broke. The collaboration between Tesla and Meta was seen as a game-changer, one that could shift the entire paradigm of how energy was produced, stored, and distributed across the globe. But as always, not everyone was happy about the new alliance. Critics were quick to point out the potential risks involved in partnering with a tech giant known for its data-driven methods, and some questioned whether Tesla could retain its focus on sustainability without compromising its core mission. Others, like Alex Carter, saw the partnership as a direct challenge to Solaris. In a public statement, Alex didn't mince words. Tesla has gone from being an energy pioneer to a tech company playing in the energy sector. Their new alliance with Meta only proves that they're more interested in scaling at all costs, instead of staying true to their vision of revolutionizing energy. They're taking shortcuts, and they're losing sight of the bigger picture. Elon's response was calm but firm. I've always been clear about our mission, creating a sustainable future for everyone. This partnership with Meta doesn't change that. It just accelerates it. It's a tool that will help us reach a global scale, and that's exactly what we need to make a real impact. Elon knew that the road ahead would only get more difficult. Every step forward brought new opposition, but it also brought closer the reality of a world powered by clean, renewable energy. He wasn't just fighting for Tesla anymore, he was fighting for the future. Months passed, and the partnership between Tesla and Meta began to show tangible results. In cities across Europe, Asia, and North America, Tesla's solar panels were being integrated into Meta's network, powering everything from individual homes to large-scale industrial operations. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive, and in regions that had previously struggled with unreliable or expensive energy, the results were transformative. Elon found himself traveling more than ever, visiting Tesla's international projects, speaking at global energy summits, and meeting with local governments to discuss long-term infrastructure projects. The burden of leadership was heavy, but it was a burden he carried with a sense of purpose. He knew that the future was within reach, and every step forward was a step closer to achieving it. In the midst of this success, however, a new challenge arose. Some of the most entrenched players in the fossil fuel industry, companies with decades of influence, began to push back more aggressively. Lobbyists were flooding Washington, pouring money into campaigns to slow down Tesla's growth. And on the international stage, major oil-producing nations began to push back against the clean energy revolution that Elon was leading. Elon knew that this was going to be the most difficult battle yet. The forces that sought to maintain the status quo would not go down without a fight. But he wasn't afraid. Every obstacle was an opportunity to prove that Tesla's vision wasn't just idealistic, it was inevitable. As Tesla's alliance with Meta began to show real progress, the pressure on Elon Musk intensified. What had once been a dream of changing the world had evolved into a full-scale battle for the future of energy, with Tesla at the center of a complex web of competing interests, global politics, and corporate rivalries. Elon found himself juggling multiple crises at once. On one hand, he had the rapidly expanding success of Tesla's clean energy solutions, solar panels and battery systems deployed in countries around the world, with Meta's vast global network accelerating the impact. On the other hand, he was facing increasing opposition from entrenched energy companies, governments reluctant to change, and even environmental groups that began to question whether Tesla was moving too fast. The fossil fuel giants, including long-established corporations like ExxonMobil and Shell, were already ramping up their efforts to undermine Tesla's progress. They had the resources to influence governments and spread negative media campaigns, framing Tesla's innovations as too radical, too expensive, and too unpredictable for a world still dependent on oil and gas. They accused Elon of playing too much of a long game, ignoring short-term market realities, and driving up energy prices for the average consumer. But it wasn't just about oil anymore. Tesla's influence was expanding into other sectors, including transportation, as its electric vehicles, EVs, began to dominate the global car market. Other automakers, feeling the heat, were scrambling to catch up, leading to fierce competition. The future of automobiles was becoming increasingly electric, and Tesla was leading the charge. Elon's competitors, now feeling threatened, were finding ways to discredit him, accusing Tesla of unfair market dominance and price manipulation. Elon's response? Stay the course. He believed in Tesla's mission, to reduce humanity's reliance on fossil fuels and transition to sustainable energy. And while he understood the resistance, he knew that it was inevitable, change always was. But there was a more subtle challenge brewing. The pressure was not only coming from the fossil fuel industry but from within Tesla itself. As the company grew rapidly, so did the challenges of managing such a massive enterprise. Tesla's global reach, bolstered by Meta's infrastructure, was stretching its resources thin. Employees were being pushed harder than ever to meet ambitious production goals, and while the rewards of success were significant, the toll on personal lives and morale was starting to show. Internal disagreements began to surface, particularly within Tesla's engineering and operations teams. The push for accelerated development and deployment was leading to fractures in how the company operated. Some employees felt that the company was losing sight of its founding principles, and that in its pursuit of global expansion, Tesla was sacrificing quality and innovation for speed. Rebecca called Elon late one evening, sounding concerned. "Elon, I've been hearing things from some of the team. They're worried about the direction we're heading. I know you've got your eyes set on the big picture, but we need to ensure that the foundations are strong. If we're not careful, this growth could lead to cracks that we won't be able to fix later." Elon sighed, leaning back in his chair. He knew what she meant. As the visionary driving Tesla forward, he sometimes lost sight of the small details, the day-to-day operations that kept the company running smoothly. But with so much on the line, he was caught between pushing for the future and managing the complexities of the present. "I'll handle it, Rebecca. Let's make sure everyone stays aligned with the mission. We can't afford to lose our way now." While internal challenges loomed large, the external pressures were about to intensify even more. Tesla had been expanding its footprint in Europe, where the European Union had been a strong advocate for clean energy solutions. However, as Tesla's influence grew, so did the scrutiny from European regulators. A report surfaced indicating that Tesla's solar systems, which were rapidly being deployed in European homes, had a higher rate of maintenance issues than initially anticipated. While these issues were minor, largely related to the software that integrated the solar roofs with the grid, these reports became amplified by Tesla's critics, who framed them as indicative of larger, unresolved issues with the company's technology. In Europe, where public perception of corporate giants was often more skeptical, these reports gained traction, becoming a point of contention with governments and environmental advocacy groups. Elon, ever the optimist, was not discouraged. "We're not perfect. But we're learning. And every problem we solve brings us closer to the goal. We're here for the long haul," he said, determined to push forward. But his leadership was now being tested in ways he had never anticipated. Tesla's position was so dominant that even minor setbacks were magnified. And while the company continued to innovate and improve its products, the negative narratives continued to build. The final blow came in the form of a lawsuit. Alex Carter, the CEO of Solaris Energy, had never been one to back down, and it became clear that the stakes in the rivalry were escalating. Solaris had filed a lawsuit against Tesla, accusing the company of unfair competition, deceptive marketing practices, and theft of intellectual property. The lawsuit claimed that Tesla had taken proprietary technology from Solaris in an effort to speed up its rollout of solar products. This legal challenge threatened to delay Tesla's projects in Europe, and the ripple effects were being felt across the company. Elon's legal team quickly jumped into action, preparing a defense. But even as the case went to court, Elon's thoughts were more focused on the bigger picture. The lawsuit was just another example of the corporate maneuvering that had come to define the industry. He had seen it before. Solaris, just like many others, was trying to slow him down. And he wouldn't let it work. Rebecca met with Elon the day after the lawsuit was filed. "We've got to be strategic here. This could take a toll on our reputation if we don't handle it right. We need to fight back, not just in the courtroom, but in the court of public opinion." Elon nodded. "We'll do both. And we'll keep moving forward. Solaris may try to stop us, but it won't work. The world is moving towards clean energy, and we're leading the way. No lawsuit is going to change that." But as the legal battles raged on, Tesla's stock fluctuated, media coverage continued to focus on the challenges the company faced, and the pressure mounted on Elon to find a way to end the conflict, once and for all. The pressure on Elon Musk and Tesla had never been greater. Every day seemed to bring a new challenge, a new crisis, or an unanticipated roadblock. The partnership with Meta had placed the company on an accelerated path toward transforming the global energy landscape. Still, it was now clear that not everyone was ready for that transformation. The fossil fuel giants, regulatory bodies, environmental watchdogs, and competitors like Solaris were all rallying against Tesla. And now, with the lawsuit from Solaris hanging over Tesla's head, the company's reputation was teetering on the edge. Elon, though known for his resilience and ability to remain calm under pressure, was feeling the weight of the situation. The legal battle with Solaris was taking longer than anticipated. The mounting pressure from regulatory bodies in Europe regarding Tesla's solar products, alongside the lawsuits and media attacks, was beginning to take a toll. Even internal morale at Tesla, once high, was starting to dip. Employees, overwhelmed with constant deadlines and trying to meet Elon's vision of rapid global expansion, were beginning to burn out. The hardest part for Elon was seeing how his employees, the people who had believed in his mission for so long, were now struggling with doubts. Many of them were beginning to question whether the rapid growth and expansion were compromising Tesla's core values. They feared that in the rush to dominate the market, quality and innovation were being sacrificed. Rebecca was one of the few people who understood Elon's internal struggle. She had always been the steady hand beside him, helping him navigate the complexities of running a global company. But even she couldn't ignore the cracks that were beginning to show. "Elon, we need to slow down," Rebecca said one evening, after yet another board meeting where the pressure had reached a boiling point. "The lawsuits, the regulatory issues, the team's burnout, it's a lot. I know you want to change the world, but we can't do it at this pace. We need to regroup, reassess, and focus on stabilizing Tesla before we try to push even further." Elon, standing at the window of his office, gazed out at the night sky. He had always been the visionary, the one who saw the future. And the future he saw was one where humanity was no longer dependent on fossil fuels, where the planet had been saved from the brink of environmental collapse. But now, he couldn't ignore the fact that Tesla was at a crossroads. "Maybe you're right," Elon said softly, his voice almost inaudible. "But if we stop now, we'll lose everything. Solaris, the fossil fuel industry, they'll pounce. They're already trying to discredit us. If we back down now, we'll never recover." Rebecca placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice firm. "It's not about backing down. It's about being strategic. We need to make sure we have a solid foundation to build on. If we collapse from within, it won't matter how big we are." Elon sighed, staring into the vastness of the night. He knew she was right. He couldn't afford to lose the people who had supported Tesla from the beginning. But his vision of the future was more than just a company, it was a revolution. And revolutions never came without sacrifice. As the legal battle with Solaris raged on, Elon began to feel the pressure not just from his enemies but from his own people. Some of Tesla's most senior engineers, key figures in the development of the company's electric vehicles and solar products, were quietly considering leaving. The stress of the constant deadlines, the crushing weight of expectations, and the fear that Tesla might be losing its way were driving them to the brink. One day, Elon received a visit from a key member of Tesla's R&D team, Neil Thornton, a brilliant engineer who had been with Tesla from its earliest days. Neil had always been an advocate for Tesla's mission, but lately, he seemed distant, as if something was eating away at him. "Elon, I need to be honest with you," Neil began, looking weary. "I've been talking to a few people on the team. We're all feeling the strain. I get it, you have a vision, and we all want to be a part of it. But it's getting harder to keep up. The pace, the constant pressure, it's starting to break us. Some of the team is thinking about leaving. They're worried about what Tesla's becoming. We need a breather, Elon." Elon had always respected Neil's opinion, and the words hit him harder than he cared to admit. The pressure had been building for months, and while he had always been the one pushing the team to go further, faster, deeper, he realized that maybe he had pushed too hard. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to make a change before everything came crashing down. "Neil," Elon said, his voice quiet but resolute. "I'm not going to let this collapse. We'll figure this out. But I need you and the team to trust me for a little while longer. This mission is bigger than us, bigger than Tesla. We're changing the world." Neil nodded slowly, but there was still doubt in his eyes. Elon knew that trust was something that had to be earned, especially now. It was at this moment that Elon made a bold decision, one that would ultimately change the trajectory of Tesla and the entire clean energy movement. Rather than pulling back, slowing down, or compromising his vision, he decided to go on the offensive. He was going to double down. Elon called an emergency board meeting. It was time for an all-in approach. "I've thought about what's been happening," Elon began, addressing the room full of Tesla's senior leadership. "We're under fire, yes. Solaris is suing us. The fossil fuel industry is pulling every string they can. And yes, we've hit a few bumps with our products. But that's all part of the process. We've always had to fight against the tide. And we're not stopping now. But we're going to do it differently. He paused, letting the room absorb his words. We're going to accelerate our efforts, but this time, we're going to do it right. We're going to take the next step not just in technology, but in our approach. We need to bring in fresh blood, new energy, and new perspectives. We need to innovate faster, and we need to build alliances with people who share our vision. He looked around the room, making eye contact with each board member. This isn't about playing it safe anymore. This is about going all in. Elon's decision was met with mixed reactions. Some on the board were wary, afraid that the risks were too great. But there were others who saw the brilliance in his approach. They had been with him from the beginning and knew that his vision could change the world. It was a gamble, but it was one that could ultimately pay off in ways that no one had imagined. Tesla's legal team began to aggressively counterattack Solaris's claims, and Elon personally flew to Europe to meet with regulators and environmental groups, reasserting Tesla's commitment to sustainability and transparency. Meanwhile, Tesla's engineers were tasked with finding immediate solutions to the technical issues plaguing their solar products, and the company began to make strategic moves to solidify its market position. It was a daring gamble, but Elon Musk was never one to back away from a challenge. He knew that the stakes had never been higher, and that the time to act was now. The tension that had gripped Tesla for months was palpable. Elon Musk, in his usual fashion, had made a bold decision to face the challenges head-on rather than retreat or play it safe. His gamble to push forward with full force was beginning to pay off, but not without cost. The external pressures from the lawsuit, the media, and the critics were intense, but there was something about Elon's renewed determination that started to shift the momentum. Tesla's legal team, working overtime, had come up with a powerful counterattack to Solaris's claims. The evidence, carefully curated and strategically timed, pointed to flaws in Solaris's technology, proving that Tesla's innovations were, in fact, ahead of the curve. The legal battle began to sway in Tesla's favor, much to the relief of the company's leadership team. It was a victory, but Elon knew that the real battle was still ongoing. Meanwhile, his personal trip to Europe had begun to yield results. Elon met with key regulatory bodies and industry leaders, sharing his vision for the future of clean energy and reaffirming Tesla's commitment to transparency and sustainability. While the pressure from regulators had been intense, Elon's personal involvement made a difference. He spoke with passion and conviction, convincing many that Tesla's approach to energy was both responsible and revolutionary. But it wasn't just about legal victories or political maneuvering. Tesla needed to address the growing concerns about its products. The glitches and maintenance issues with their solar products were real, and they were beginning to erode consumer confidence. Elon had promised solutions, and now it was time to deliver. He called in the best engineers from Tesla's research and development team, instructing them to accelerate the process of improving the solar technology. There was no room for failure, not now. The stakes were too high. And the pressure was on. Elon's efforts to stabilize Tesla's internal operations were also showing results. The morale of the company's employees had taken a hit, but through a combination of transparency and relentless drive, Elon had begun to rebuild trust. He initiated a company-wide series of listening sessions, where engineers and employees from all departments could voice their concerns, propose new ideas, and directly communicate with him. At the first meeting, Elon was met with a flood of concerns from his employees. There was talk of burnout, stress, and fear of being left behind in the race to meet deadlines. But there was something else too, a renewed sense of purpose. People who had once questioned whether Tesla could sustain its rapid growth were now re-energized by Elon's confidence and commitment to the mission. "We're in this together," Elon told the group. "I don't expect perfection, but I do expect passion. This is about the future of the planet. And that's not something we can back down from." It wasn't an easy fix, but it was a step in the right direction. Slowly, the energy within Tesla began to shift. Employees felt empowered to voice their concerns and ideas, and Elon's willingness to listen, despite his unrelenting pursuit of progress, started to win people back. With the legal battle starting to tilt in Tesla's favor and internal morale improving, Elon was able to shift his focus to expanding the company's global reach. He knew that Tesla's success depended on being at the forefront of every market, and Europe was just the beginning. Tesla's solar energy systems, which had been experiencing technical issues, were now being rolled out with significant improvements. The updated technology addressed most of the concerns raised by regulators, and customer satisfaction was on the rise. In fact, Tesla was now the leader in solar installations in several European countries, cementing its position as a force to be reckoned with in the energy sector. But the real breakthrough came when Elon made a major announcement at a global energy conference in Berlin. Tesla, in collaboration with Meta, would be launching an initiative to integrate renewable energy solutions with Meta's vast data network, creating a global grid powered entirely by clean energy. This would be the largest renewable energy project in history, a project that would directly challenge the oil and gas industries while offering a sustainable alternative to traditional power sources. The announcement sent shockwaves through the energy sector. Meta's massive data centers, which powered the entire digital world, would now be run on Tesla's renewable energy solutions, drastically reducing their carbon footprint. The collaboration was a game-changer, a bold, visionary leap that positioned Tesla as the undisputed leader of the clean energy revolution. As Tesla's dominance in Europe continued to grow, Elon set his sights on North America. The American market, still dominated by fossil fuel interests, was Tesla's next battlefield. With Meta's backing, Tesla was able to launch a campaign that not only promoted the benefits of clean energy but also positioned Tesla as a symbol of the future, one where technology and sustainability went hand in hand. Elon's message resonated with the public. His ability to communicate the urgency of transitioning to clean energy, coupled with his unwavering commitment to innovation, began to attract a broader audience. People were starting to realize that this wasn't just about a car company or a tech giant, it was about creating a new world. The media, which had once been highly critical of Tesla, began to shift its tone. There were still skeptics, of course, but the tide was turning. Stories of Tesla's success were now being reported more frequently, and Elon's reputation as an innovator and disruptor only continued to grow. But even as Tesla's influence expanded, Elon knew that the journey was far from over. The road ahead was fraught with challenges, and he could sense the inevitable pushback from the forces that stood to lose the most from Tesla's success. The fossil fuel industry, feeling the heat of Tesla's rising dominance, was not going to sit idly by. And there were still many hurdles to overcome in the regulatory landscape. But Elon was prepared. With every victory, the stakes grew higher, but so did his resolve. He wasn't just fighting for Tesla's future, he was fighting for the future of the planet. He was reshaping the world in real time, and the opposition was only fueling his drive to push harder, faster, and further. The transformation that had begun in the halls of Tesla now reached a tipping point. The company, once seen as a bold experiment, was now an unstoppable force, a symbol of what the future could be. But Elon Musk knew that with every breakthrough came new challenges, and he was ready for them. The revolution was just getting started. Tesla's global expansion was no longer a dream. It had become reality. The clean energy revolution that Elon Musk had envisioned was slowly but surely taking shape. Tesla's dominance in Europe and the beginning of its breakthrough in North America set the stage for what could only be described as the beginning of a new era in energy. However, with such rapid success came a host of challenges, many of which were hidden beneath the surface. Elon had always known that success would come at a price. He had made countless sacrifices in his personal life, and his relentless focus on Tesla had led to strained relationships with those closest to him. But now, with Tesla's triumphs and groundbreaking projects changing the way the world viewed energy, Elon was beginning to see the true cost of his ambitions, not just in terms of personal sacrifice, but also in terms of the company's future. The scale of Tesla's operations was growing exponentially, and with it, the complexity of running the company. Manufacturing plants were stretched thin, engineers were under more pressure than ever, and supply chains were being tested to their limits. Tesla's promise of producing clean, sustainable energy was no longer enough. They needed to stay ahead of the curve, and that required constant innovation and a willingness to take risks. But the pressure to maintain this pace was starting to reveal cracks in the foundation. Internally, some of Tesla's top engineers were beginning to burn out. They had been working tirelessly to meet deadlines and push the boundaries of what was possible, but the toll was becoming apparent. Ideas that had once been met with excitement were now being approached with caution. Some engineers, once driven by the desire to change the world, were beginning to question whether they had sacrificed too much in the process. Rebecca, Elon's trusted confidant, had been the one person who had always tried to balance Elon's intense drive with the reality of the situation. She saw the cracks forming beneath the surface, not only in the team but in Elon himself. She knew he was consumed by the weight of his vision, but she couldn't help but worry that, in his single-minded pursuit of changing the world, he was losing sight of the people who had been with him from the start. "Elon, we need to talk," Rebecca said one evening, as they sat in his office. The air was thick with tension. Elon had just returned from a whirlwind tour of the new European facilities, where he had pushed for even greater expansion. His focus was unwavering, but Rebecca could see that something was wrong. "What's going on?" she asked gently. "You've been running at full speed for so long now, and the team, they're feeling it. People are starting to question if they can keep up. We can't afford to lose our best minds, Elon. They're the ones who made Tesla what it is." Elon, his face drawn and tired, leaned back in his chair. He knew what Rebecca was saying was true. The pressure had been immense, and although he always pushed forward, he was feeling it more now than ever before. But he couldn't afford to show weakness. Not now, not when the world was watching. "I know," Elon said, his voice quiet. "But if we slow down now, it'll be too late. The market is moving faster than we ever imagined. We need to keep pushing, or we risk falling behind. We can't afford to stop. The future is at stake." Rebecca didn't respond immediately. She knew this wasn't just about business for Elon, it was about something deeper. It was about the legacy he wanted to leave behind. She had seen him sacrifice his personal life for Tesla's success, and now, the toll on his team was becoming a real issue. "You've already changed the world," Rebecca finally said. "But there's a difference between changing the world and saving yourself in the process. If we keep pushing at this pace, we're going to burn out. Maybe we need to rethink how we're doing this. Maybe we need to stop and take a breath before we break everything." Elon's mind raced. He had never been one to back down, but he knew Rebecca was right. Tesla's success, his success, depended on the people around him. And those people were on the verge of breaking. Despite the internal challenges, the external pressure was just as daunting. Solaris, their fiercest competitor in the renewable energy space, had not relented. The legal battle was still ongoing, and with every passing day, Solaris seemed to be intensifying its attacks. The fossil fuel industry was also not sitting idly by. Lobbyists and politicians who had long been aligned with traditional energy sources were stepping up their efforts to undermine Tesla's position, often spreading misinformation and stoking fear about the viability of solar energy and electric vehicles. Elon knew the stakes were as high as they had ever been. The media, which had once painted him as a visionary, was now beginning to question the long-term viability of his ambitions. Stories of Tesla's struggles with its solar products, the lawsuits from competitors, and the burnout among employees were being amplified. Critics were beginning to wonder whether Tesla's meteoric rise had been just a flash in the pan, and whether it was sustainable in the long term. But Elon refused to back down. Every setback only fueled his determination. If Tesla was going to survive, it had to push through the storm. And he was going to lead it through. He began a series of public appearances, doubling down on his vision for the future of energy. His speeches were filled with urgency, highlighting the threat of climate change and the need for immediate action. He painted a picture of a world where solar energy and electric cars were the norm, not the exception. He talked about how humanity was at a crossroads, and how Tesla was leading the charge to create a sustainable future. But behind the scenes, the situation was becoming more fragile. The team at Tesla, once driven by the same passion that had propelled them to success, was now struggling to maintain the same level of enthusiasm. As the pressure mounted, Elon began to realize that he might have to make a difficult choice: push forward at any cost or slow down and rebuild for the long term. One evening, after a particularly grueling meeting with Tesla's executive team, Elon stood on the balcony of his office overlooking the sprawling Tesla factory. The sounds of machines and assembly lines echoed below him, but for a moment, it all felt distant. He had sacrificed so much, but was it enough? Was this what success looked like? He thought about Rebecca's words, about the team's concerns. He thought about how far Tesla had come, but also about the very real costs of that success. The weight of it all pressed heavily on his shoulders. Elon Musk was no stranger to difficult decisions, but this one felt different. This was the moment that would define the future of Tesla, not just as a company, but as a symbol of a movement. The pressure was becoming unbearable, and Elon Musk could feel it in every fiber of his being. For the last few years, Tesla had surged forward like a rocket, with each milestone reached only leading to a new set of challenges. But the cracks were beginning to show, internally within Tesla, and externally in the markets, in the media, and with the growing regulatory scrutiny. Tesla's success had always been built on relentless innovation, but that same innovation was now the very thing putting the company on the line. The solar products, which had once been heralded as the future of renewable energy, were still facing technical issues that delayed production. Tesla's car division, while still profitable, was facing fierce competition from traditional automakers who were finally catching up to the electric vehicle trend. And then there was the ongoing legal battle with Solaris, which showed no signs of letting up. Elon was, as always, a man of vision. But for the first time, he found himself standing on the edge of a precipice, staring into the unknown. His idealistic drive to change the world had pushed him and Tesla into uncharted territory, and now the company was at a crossroads. Would they keep pushing forward at this breakneck speed, risking everything, or would they slow down, regroup, and take stock of the immense toll this journey had exacted on their people? It wasn't just the external pressure weighing on him. It was the quiet, internal battle that had started to plague his mind. He had spent so many years sacrificing relationships, sleep, and even his own well-being for Tesla's success. His marriage had been a casualty, as had friendships with some of the people who had supported him in the early days. And now, even his own company's employees were showing signs of exhaustion and burnout. Rebecca had noticed the toll it was taking on him long before he had admitted it. For years, she had been his anchor, helping him manage the chaos, keeping him focused when things seemed impossible. But even Rebecca was starting to feel the strain. She, too, had sacrificed so much for the dream, but now, she couldn't help but wonder, was it worth it? One day, after a tense meeting with the executive team, where the mood was more somber than usual, Rebecca finally confronted Elon again. She couldn't ignore it any longer, the pressure was breaking him. "Elon, you can't keep going at this pace," Rebecca said, her voice heavy with concern. "Something has to give. We need to take a step back, assess where we are, and make some tough decisions about the future of this company." Elon was quiet for a moment. He had always prided himself on his ability to outwork and outthink anyone, but now, even he could see the writing on the wall. He knew he couldn't keep carrying the weight of Tesla on his shoulders forever, but at the same time, the thought of slowing down, of taking a break from the relentless pace, felt like surrender. He had spent so long building this company, and now, to step back, to admit that he couldn't do it all, was an idea he wasn't ready to accept. "I can't stop now," Elon finally said, his voice strained. "If we do, everything we've worked for will fall apart. We're too close, Rebecca." The world is watching. I can't back down now. Rebecca, who had always supported his vision, felt her heart sink. She understood the weight of Elon's words, the stakes were high, and Tesla's success was more than just a business venture. It was a revolution. But she also knew that if Elon didn't make a change, the company, his legacy, would be in danger. Elon, you've already changed the world, she said softly. But there's a difference between fighting for a vision and destroying yourself in the process. If you keep going at this rate, we'll lose everything. Elon didn't respond immediately. He knew Rebecca was right, but the thought of stepping back felt like an impossible choice. The future of Tesla, and his own personal legacy, depended on pushing forward. But as the days passed, the pressure continued to mount. He saw the strain in the faces of his employees, in the exhaustion in Rebecca's eyes, in the quiet moments where he could no longer ignore the mounting personal cost. As Elon stood at this crossroads, a moment of clarity struck him. The solution didn't have to be either-or, he didn't have to destroy himself or Tesla in order to succeed. There was a middle ground. He didn't need to take a step back from his vision or stop driving innovation, he just needed to lead in a different way. Elon reached out to his leadership team, inviting them to a meeting where he would lay out his new vision for the future. It was time to change the way Tesla operated, not just in terms of products and strategy but in terms of culture. Tesla could no longer run at the pace it had been for the past few years. The company needed to evolve, to be more sustainable in every sense, including how it treated its people. The meeting was held in one of Tesla's new conference rooms, a space that was designed to foster collaboration and creativity. The team gathered, with some familiar faces, and some newer ones, people who had joined Tesla during its rapid expansion. Elon stood before them, his usual energy tempered by a sense of resolve. This is not just about making great cars or solar panels, Elon began. This is about building a company that can stand the test of time. A company that is as sustainable in how we treat our people as it is in how we produce clean energy. I've realized that we've been pushing too hard, and we've been burning out our greatest asset, our people. There was a pause in the room as the team processed Elon's words. They had seen the long hours, the constant pressure, and the toll it had taken on the company, but no one had dared to voice their concerns so openly before. I've made the decision to shift our approach, Elon continued. We're going to invest in the well-being of our employees. We're going to streamline our operations and focus on making Tesla a place where people can thrive, not just work. Our success has always been about innovation, but that innovation can't come at the cost of our most valuable resource, the people who make it all happen. The team listened, intrigued. It wasn't the announcement they had expected, but it was the one they needed. Elon's vision for the future of Tesla was still as bold as ever, but now, it was tempered with a sense of responsibility for the people behind the machines, the solar panels, and the electric vehicles. As the meeting concluded, Elon left the room feeling a sense of relief. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start. The road ahead would be filled with challenges, but now, for the first time in a long while, Elon Musk felt like he was in control again, not just of Tesla's future, but of his own. The next few months would be critical. Elon had set the tone, but it was up to the entire company to embrace this new approach, to make Tesla a sustainable, thriving company in every sense. And while the world still watched with bated breath, waiting to see if Tesla's next steps would live up to the lofty expectations, Elon knew one thing for certain: this was a new beginning. Elon Musk stood on the balcony of Tesla's headquarters, looking out over the sprawling campus. The sun was setting behind the factory, casting long shadows across the land. It had been an intense year, full of challenges, changes, and tough decisions. But now, as the day came to a close, there was a sense of peace that he hadn't felt in a long time. The relentless pursuit of innovation had taken a toll on everyone, employees, partners, even himself. The past few years had been a whirlwind of sleepless nights, endless meetings, and the constant pressure of staying ahead in a rapidly changing world. But the shift in direction that Elon had introduced to the company, focused on sustainable growth and the well-being of the people who made it all possible, had already begun to show results. Tesla's culture had changed, slowly but surely. Employees felt more empowered and valued. Productivity was up, not because people were being pushed harder, but because they were being given the support they needed to thrive. There were wellness programs in place, flexible work schedules, and a renewed sense of camaraderie across departments. Elon had made it clear, success wasn't just about making the best products, but about making Tesla a place where people could be their best selves. Rebecca, who had been a steady voice of reason throughout the transformation, sat beside him on the balcony. They didn't need to speak to understand each other. The change had been necessary, and it had worked. Tesla was not just surviving, it was thriving. "Do you think we've done enough?" Rebecca asked, breaking the silence. Elon smiled, a rare, content smile that spoke volumes. "It's a start. But it's just the beginning. We've created a company that can endure, a company that's about more than just making money. It's about making a difference." The past year had shown Elon that the most meaningful kind of success wasn't in accolades or profits, it was in the ability to inspire, to lead, and to create something that would outlast him. Tesla was no longer just his dream, it had become a movement, a legacy. The success of the company was evident in the results. Tesla's production capabilities were stronger than ever, the electric vehicle market was booming, and the solar division had turned a corner. The legal battles with Solaris had finally been settled, and Tesla had come out on top. But most importantly, Tesla had become a symbol of what could be achieved when people work together toward a common, greater goal. Elon had spent so much of his life focused on the future, on what could be, that he had often forgotten to live in the present. But now, he was beginning to understand that balance was key. His commitment to changing the world would never waver, but he now saw that the journey was just as important as the destination. His relationship with Rebecca had deepened. Their conversations were no longer just about business, they had become about life, about what mattered beyond the boardrooms and factories. They shared moments of quiet joy, moments that were once so rare for Elon in his pursuit of success. Elon thought about the people who had helped him along the way, the engineers, the designers, the employees who had believed in Tesla when it was nothing more than an idea. He thought about the sacrifices they had made, the long hours, the frustrations. He had always pushed them to be better, but now, he was beginning to realize that their success was his success. They were in this together. He spent time with the younger engineers, discussing their ideas, listening to their concerns, and encouraging them to dream big. He shared his own experiences, but he also listened to theirs. He knew that the company's success in the future would depend on the next generation of leaders, and he wanted to ensure that they had the tools and support to carry the vision forward. Elon's days were no longer consumed by non-stop meetings or late-night calls. Instead, he focused on the bigger picture, the direction of Tesla, the impact they were making on the world, and how to inspire others to join the movement. He took time to reflect on his own journey and the lessons he had learned. It wasn't about changing the world in one giant leap anymore. It was about creating a lasting, sustainable impact. It was about leading with purpose and integrity. One afternoon, while driving to the Tesla Gigafactory, Elon received a call from an unfamiliar number. It was a voice he recognized, though. "Elon," the voice said, "it's Mark. I've been thinking about something for a while now. Tesla's work with sustainable energy is more important than ever, and I think it's time for a new partnership. A real, collaborative effort between our companies. What do you think?" Elon's mind raced. Mark, the CEO of another major tech company, had been a competitor in some respects, but the potential of a partnership between their companies could revolutionize the way the world approached energy. "I've been thinking about that too," Elon replied, his tone thoughtful. "Let's meet and see what we can come up with." In the months that followed, Elon worked on forging new partnerships, ones that would strengthen Tesla's mission and expand their influence globally. The conversations were about more than just products and profits, they were about how to accelerate the transition to renewable energy, how to make electric vehicles the standard, and how to create a world where clean, sustainable energy was accessible to all. Tesla was not just a company. It was the center of a revolution. The world had taken notice, and now, Tesla's future was in the hands of a new generation, one that was committed to Elon's vision but was also ready to carry it forward in their own way. As the years went by, Elon Musk's legacy continued to grow. Tesla remained at the forefront of the renewable energy movement, changing the world one car, one solar panel, and one innovation at a time. Elon never lost sight of the bigger picture, but he also found joy in the little moments, moments with those who believed in him, moments spent helping others, moments spent living for something greater than himself. Tesla had become a beacon of hope for the future, and Elon Musk had become more than just a tech mogul. He had become a symbol of what was possible when vision, perseverance, and purpose converged. As he looked out over the horizon, Elon realized that the world he had always dreamed of, one powered by clean, sustainable energy, was within reach. And though the road had been long and fraught with challenges, it had been worth every step. Elon Musk had not just built a company. He had built a legacy that would inspire generations to come. And in that, he had truly changed the world. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?